everybody. Well, Lizzie introduced me, which makes this who I am slide, I guess, less relevant. But as she said, I run Dystopia Rising, which is a post-apocalyptic buffer game. We also run Eschaton Media, which publishes all of our books that go with both DR and some other lines. And then Imagination is the live action, the event running company that we do. And that's what I do for a living. I also am sometimes I'm that guy, sometimes I'm that guy. That guy, not that one. Jeff's very nice, he's taller than me. So I run all of those games. And I also have all these other hobbies, and that becomes perhaps relevant later on. So what I want to talk about for these however many minutes Emily gives me is tribalism in gaming. To do that, I think we need to understand what tribalism in the world is, because this is an aspect of society that is prevalent everywhere. Much like many other things, Larp is not exclusive to this. It is just a snapshot of a bigger piece of the world. So tribalism, from the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, is loyalty to a tribe or other social group, especially when combined with strong negative feelings for people outside that group. I think we've all probably experienced that. Tribal consciousness and loyalty, especially above any other group, and strong in-game loyalty. So what we see, when we see that happen, is everywhere, really. I'm from New England, so I do this. I like this sports team, they're the best. I'm this political affiliation, it's better than yours. These are my beliefs on religion, this is correct, you are wrong. And so it goes from something as big as nationalism to this is the kind of buffer LARP that I play. So what is LARP tribalism? When individuals that partake in the shared umbrella of live action role playing, you can read this, I'm not going to read this to you. This. Yeah, there you go. This is probably my favorite joking sentence. My pretend is better than yours. For Klaus. When individuals that partake in the shared umbrella of live action role playing have a higher degree of loyalty and preference to the members, organizations, and the form of LARPing that their individual tribe supports, while actively being disinclined towards ideas, thoughts, processes, and experiences provided from outside the tribe. My pretend is better than yours. So, signs and symptoms that tribalism is happening. My pretend is better than yours. Shunning people who don't go to your games, who don't choose to go to your games, or who don't go to your games anymore, or aren't a part of your social society anymore. I'm sure we've all met people who stop playing the game, and then you just kind of stop talking to them. You still have those other things in common, theoretically, but because they don't show up to your pretend, they stop existing. I once had someone, and most of my anecdotes are out of buffer LARPing and theater LARPing, and I trust that these are the first ones. I used to play theater LARP a long time ago. DR takes up most of my time, so I don't get out as much anymore. And I ran into someone that I used to play theater LARP with years and years ago, and he said, "Oh, I thought you stopped gaming." That's not true. I live, breathe, eat, and sleep LARP, but because I was no longer playing his game, I stopped existing as far as he could tell. So not including the people who are no longer a part of your game is a part of that. Not bringing new people into your group. We have this group, I have these 8 people, or I have these 40 people, or 100 people, or however big your game is, and that's it. We have this thing, and it's ours now. And I think there's probably a lot to that about the history of LARPing being a subculture and being kind of secretive and being, we call it, LARPers in the closet. And so we're very protective of it. But when we don't bring people in, we're not growing it. We're not bringing in new ideas. We're not doing anything good. So we're not bringing in new people. Trolling. To use a personal example, we had a player from another game who had never attended anything we ever did join our groups and begin insulting our players on the Facebook group as though they were our player. So trying to drive our players away by giving this image of a really negative experience, which was not at all true. Called him out and kicked him out. And then expressing what is right and wrong. And this, I understand, is probably an argument that you guys are welcome to have with me in the practice place. There is no right and wrong of LARP. There is different. There is not my preference, but there's not wrong. And so I play one game right now. I don't know, so many hours. There are like a million games, and they're all right. They're all fun. And if you're going to a game, you're having fun, that's the goal. But one of the bad aspects of it is telling someone that their pretend is wrong, telling them that my pretend is better than your pretend. Yeah. So, catalysts and causes of LARP tribalism. Focusing on the game rather than the people. And this is players and game runners. Focusing on the game rather than the people. Community has to be more important. If I'm not friends with you, I can know Harrison, and Harrison and I can be friends. But if I only know him as his character, then we don't have a relationship. We don't actually, as people, have a relationship. If I call him by his character's name when I see him at the grocery store, then there's a disconnect there. We're not playing a game together. We are playing our characters existing in the same space. Hyper fandom. We all know that guy who only talks about his game all the time, constantly. You can't talk about anything else, and that, I think, prevents having any other conversation and prevents making any other meaningful connection when all we're talking about is the thing that we pretend to do. And that's not to say that we shouldn't talk about it, but there's a lot of things in the world that we can talk about. And not having, and going back to knowing each other as people rather than as characters, not having a strong community when something bad happens, you have no foundation to move from. So if Harrison and I know each other, you're just right in front of me. If Harrison and I know each other as friends and we have a conflict in character, we can talk about it because we're friends and know Harrison is cool. But if I've never even spoken to Harrison out of character, then if we have a problem, the chances that I'm going to approach him as a person become much smaller. No, still there, cool. Insular advertising. Advertising to other LARPers rather than to non-LARPers. Advertising only at conventions, advertising only on game sites. If you're not growing the community, you're not bringing in anything new, and you're only encouraging the people who have these insular, secretive habits to continue. Advertising in other games. Sniping is the term that we use. I don't know if there are other terms that go by it. Poaching works. Just that idea of going to, nobody likes the guy who goes to another game and says, hey, if you come to my game, I'll give you 14 extra experience points because you've been playing here for a while. It's a thing. I see shocked looks, but I've seen it. And not only is that terrible because you're not growing your own player base, you're not growing any loyalty, you're also building terrible blood between the communities. Because now you have those people who are going to stop talking to you because you're no longer playing their game, are now even mad about it. I said all these things. Yeah. So advertising outside. I looked it up. If 2% of Austin's population wanted to LARP, you'd have 18,000 LARPers. And that's just one city. So the idea, from a game runner's perspective, the idea of not advertising outside of your established circles is nuts. You're shooting yourself in the foot. There's thousands of people out there who would love to LARP, but if we're not going outside of that, we're not going to find them. Debating what is right and wrong. And LARP, as I have mentioned, there's buffer, there's theater, there's freeform, and there's a million other that I don't know the terms for at all, and that's totally fine. But debating those debating those ideas in a harmful way rather than looking to learn from it just builds these tight circles. If I buffer, that's right. Buffering is the only way you can LARP. So ways that we can combat tribalism. I didn't mean to leave, get a bigger boat in there. I can't even make that up. I don't know, get a bigger boat. I don't know, maybe you like to. Run your game like a business, even if it's not. And what that means is treat it as though it is that important to you. Because I think for a lot of us, it is that important to you, even if you're not doing it as a business. Look for the health of your community, look for the health of the game before that one person. If something that we in Dystopia Rising tell all of our other game directors is don't ever be held hostage by your players. And don't ever hold your game runners hostage. Anybody who comes to a game runner and says, I'm gonna leave if you don't, and sometimes if there's a legitimate issue, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about like somebody punched me. Yes, that's reasonable. But if I come to you and I say, I came to this post-apocalyptic game, I'm gonna leave if you don't let me cosplay in it. And this is not the game for you. I hope you find something you enjoy. And that's sort of run the game for the game's health and the community's health rather than falling to one person's demands. I don't like being held hostage, it makes me mad. Game community starts at the top. It starts with the people who who run the game. You have to look for new people. You have to want to include new people in there. If you don't do it, and I'll use Michael and I as Dystopia Rising as the example. Michael and I spend a great deal of time on how can we make this welcoming? How can we bring new people in? And that comes down to our directors, and that comes down to their staff, and then down to the players. And we are very open about it and very, very blunt about it. But what that does is that builds a community that is excited for new people instead of scared of them. Build and have realistic expectations of you and your other gaming groups. When you have conversations, when you go to a game, these are also people that are running things. Nobody's infallible. Nothing's perfect. Screws fall out all the time. It's an imperfect world. Have that in mind when you have those conversations. I know that we've probably all run into a time when somebody's just punching in the dark because they're angry, because something happened. And I think that it's important for everybody to remember that everyone in the conversation is a person. And everybody who is running a game is doing it because they want their players to have fun. I assume nobody goes to game hoping that their players have a terrible time and go home and are super upset about everything that happened. That doesn't happen. So if you bring something to somebody and they can't do it, or they're resistant, maybe there's a reason. I know that I've certainly had people come to me with issues or problems that have happened. Sometimes it's just a bad day. Sometimes it's the 18th email that was just full of, you're the worst. Probably not. I hope not. So the people who are running your games and the people who are playing next to you are also people. And so you need to have those expectations in mind. If I go, if Krista and I have a conversation and she's freeform and I'm boffer, which is already defining us unnecessarily, I have to keep in mind that she is a person. And she has opinions, she has expectations of this conversation. And she has experiences that are different than mine. So even though we might not be saying the same thing, still we've all got this umbrella of LARP, which I think is pretty cool. Take action when there's a problem, rather than just punching in the dark. Be a proactive member of your community, I guess is probably a more professional way to say that. And own your own past mistakes and gaps in your knowledge. It's okay to change what you do because you've learned something new now. And when we do that, when we are able to do that, when you're able to own, I didn't realize, then we all become better. I can improve what I'm doing, and you can improve what you're doing because we've had this conversation. So, I'm kind of rambly, I apologize. I write contracts, not talking to people. But I think that I don't think that we are going to solve tribalism in society by playing LARPs. That would be great, but it's not going to happen. We are a small, we're a small snapshot. I'm sorry, Clef. Sorry. I'm sorry. We're a small piece of society, and so we're not going to solve world hunger by playing a game, but we can make it better, and we can change the world that we are a part of. But we have to have those conversations with everybody, and I think this, the games, is a great example of that. We've got people from every single LARP thing that's ever happened possibly. We're all sitting in this room, we're all wearing the same badges. Nice lanyards, by the way. And we're all here having these same conversations, and I think this is, hopefully we could take this home and we can remember that, like, we might feel like we're competition. I might feel like, the hell does he took my player? You probably didn't. But we're all here to LARP. And if we can get past that idea of, I'm a boffer LARPer, I'm a theater LARPer, I like this specific MMO, I like this. If we can get past that in even a small way, I think we can do some really amazing stuff with the community, with gaming as a whole. We can expand it. You know, we've all seen in the last couple of years, LARPing's gotten real big. People know what it is. You might not be able to tell your grandmother, but you can probably tell the guy at the bank. You have told the guy at the bank. You can tell people what LARP is, and they know what it is, which I know is maybe new for America. Some other people are more, that's history. But we can do these things, but we can't do these things if we are dividing ourselves within this already very small piece of the world that we're in. So, sum up, everybody's cool. Be cool to each other. Party on, dudes.